low. I'm still trying to figure out what my desires are. My hope is that whatever direction I take and whatever path I follow, that it's going to make a difference for God's kingdom.
I just think that he desires for me to be exactly who he's created me to be.
Why the heck he chose to pursue me and to make me something special and to count me his, I don't get it.
And I am just humbled to be a part of that process and be involved in the things and have the passions that he has given me. I start to doubt myself, and I start to doubt if God could ever use me with the talents I have. I really hope that as I continue on this journey of this career, that I will use it for God.
I want my life to count.
So when I was in high school, the 3 cutest boys in our grade decided to start a band. And we went to every show that they had. We bought 15 CDs apiece, and their name was Short Fellow. And they tried to be the local version of U2. And by try, I should say they actually were pretty good, because all of us melted every time that they sang. So we were in love with these little high school boys playing U2. And at that time, U2 was as big as it ever been. And so Bono is just this icon, this legend, right? And so I'm watching an interview with him recently. And the guy said, "How has faith played a role in your life?" And he said, "Well, if there is a force of love and logic that put us here, then I believe it should get to define itself. If there is a force of love and logic that created this earth and put us all here, I think it should get to define itself." See, even the most epic rock star of our time knows good and well he is not God. And even the most epic rock star of our time knows that he does not even get to define God. What we're about to do together literally changes every minute of my life. There is not a day that goes by that I do not think of this arrow. The question we're going to ask today is, what is God after? Because how can we dream until we know how we're supposed to dream? And what's the framework of our dreaming? What is God after? Let's start in Genesis 1 with these words. Verse 27. So God created man in his own image, man made in the image of God. The idea that we are made in the image of God gives us worth that we don't understand or comprehend. So, who created humans? The Trinity. Father, Son, Spirit, present in creation. In Genesis 1, it says we created. So there is this idea of communal God, of God that did not need us. God had everything he needed in himself. He did not need friends. He did not need worshipers. He did not need angels. He did not need me. And so God existed before time, before creation, in perfect form. And out of love, he said, let's make man in our image. And then God blessed them. And God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the heaven, and every other living creature. And God said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of the earth, every good thing he put in us. So before time, God, in his three and oneness, created the earth and set time into motion. Why? Why did he create all this trouble? He knew what was going to happen. He knew. He knew what thousands and thousands of years, what it would happen. Revelations 21. I just took you from the beginning and we're going to the end right now. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea wasn't anymore. And I saw this holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride, adorned for her husband. Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be as their God. And all the stuff that went down between Genesis 1 and Revelations 21, he's gonna wipe every tear. And he's gonna do away with death. Neither shall there be mourning or crying or pain, because everything that was will have passed away. If you only understood those 2 moments, you didn't know Christianity, you didn't know how we got there, you didn't know how you got to heaven forever with God. You just knew that he created out of love, that he didn't need me. This wasn't an agenda project. And that he would take care of every wrong that the world has ever known. Would you want him? Just on that. We were built for God. Completely. It's why we feel restless every time we're not close. So there will be a time we don't feel restless anymore. Forever. And so he created, and then what did we do? He knew. We fell. Because we had a choice. He put us on this little spinning planet and he said, I will not force you to love me. I want you to want me. And so we fall and we choose evil. And part of that was set up for us before we got here, because there was an angel that wanted to be God. That was it. See, this isn't just a love story with an incredible hero. The hero is actually saving us from the darkest story, the very darkest story. And so he says, come out. Adam, Eve, come out. I made you. You're not gonna hide from me. But you're right, you need something. This isn't gonna work anymore. You feel shame, you feel guilt, you feel condemnation, you feel scared, you feel completely on the side of the road and in a puddle. And you can't imagine that I would still love you. You can't imagine. So he begins this picture, this image of how he will make Revelations 21 happen. Right away, he says, I'm going to send a seed. And that seed is going to take care of my business and get you back. And so, in the wilderness, with a dude named Abraham, he speaks out of the sky. And it gives Abraham enough faith. I just think that's kind. Like, how could Abraham have believed unless God gave him enough faith? It was crazy. But he said, I'm gonna make a nation out of you. And through this man, every single human that ever lives will be blessed. And then Jacob follows God. Isaac follows God. And all of a sudden, they got a little army now. Israel's like growing into a little tribe and nation, which he had promised from these 3 men. And one of those kids is Joseph. And Joseph, who we're going to look at, is this prototype of what Christ does for us. He says, you know, you're going to wrong me over and over and over again, and I'm going to save your life anyway. And David, King David, I mean, just go up. I'm not going to write them all. David. And to David, he says, he reveals just a little bit more of the picture, a little bit more of the story. He says, I'm going to make an eternal kingdom, and you are who I'm going to use to do that. And through you, we're going to build a kingdom that will last forever and never, ever go away. And so you watch through the years where God sends prophets. And all prophets are these voices saying, hey, not pretend. This is real. God is here. He could take you out. He may. You're really, truly living like he's not real. Stop. Come back. And they would for a minute, maybe, sometimes, for a minute. And then it says that in the fullness of time, at the very right moment, Christ comes. God in the flesh comes as a baby, as a little bitty baby, to save the world. If I just heard that for the very first time, I would think, what a funny God. What a funny God. To send his only son into the mess that we'd made as a little helpless baby. And I think the reason I care about this story so much is I think I'm the most forgetful of them all. And so I forget, or get numb, or don't care that I'm a part of something so epic I couldn't have ever, ever, ever asked for a bigger story to be a part of. And it turns out the whole world had it backwards what it meant to follow and obey God. They all thought it was about rules and measuring up and leaves to cover themselves up, to make themselves look good and feel proud. Do it right. And Jesus, God here, the only true image, perfect image, kept leaving all the people with the rules and walking over to the person in the sand that they were about to kill because she was such a sinner. And the prostitute, and the woman that had been married 50 times, and the thieves. He would walk away from all the pretty religious people, and he would walk over to them, and he'd bend down in the sand and start drawing. He started drawing instead of throwing stones. God, like he put us here. He put it all in motion. And he's finally here in the flesh, and he can take us out. He can at least preach to us, right? I mean, he could shake his finger a little, like we've been out of control. And he draws in the sand. And he gets on everybody's level. And he lifts their head up. And he pulls them up and he says, I forgive you. I made you. I made the planet. I get to forgive sins. I'm the only one. And I get to tell you what you're worth. I get to tell you that me and God and the Holy Spirit made a whole story, and you're in it. And we picked you to be part of our family, and we have been after you since time began. But it was going to be costly. And so he's about to die for us. The thing that had to happen, the lamb, the perfect lamb that had to be slain on a cross, was about to die for us. And he's in a garden because he's fully man too. He could have left that out too, but he embraced it out of love for us. And he's facing what he knows will save us and what he knows will be the most incredibly dark day of his life. And then God says to him in some form or fashion, we got to do it. This is the only way. This is where the story will change. This is where we get them back. This is where we win. And so, for a joy that was set before him, he endured a cross and scorned its shame. You that do not think that you have an important part to play on this planet, you need to know that God designed an eternity for you. And that you, from the moment of creation, were the object of his love and his chase. He has flat run after you through prophets and kings and Adam and Eve and imperfect humans on arks and Moses and laws, and all of it was to get you, forever. My favorite passage just about in Scripture is Acts 17, verse 24. God who made the world and he made everything in it, being Lord of heaven and earth, but he doesn't just live in temples made by man, nor does he serve by human hands as though he needed anything, since he himself gives to all mankind life and breath and everything. And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on the face of the earth. He determined the allotted times they were going to live and the spots they were going to land, that they should seek him, that they would seek God in the hope that they actually might find their way to him. See, I think we don't trust God because our lives aren't working out right. I think we don't trust God because a lot feels really broken and it feels like he's not in control. The reason I think of this story every day is because I don't trust God because my life or my day is going well. I trust God because I believe that eternity will go well for me. But he didn't leave us as orphans. Different from everyone before this point, he said, you know what? I'm going to give you something better than me on earth with you. Something better than Jesus. It sounds blasphemous, but that's his words. I'm going to give you my Spirit. So when I leave, I've got to go away, and when I leave, he will come. And then it says in two different places about the Spirit, in the Old Testament and the New Testament, right when he comes, in fact, it says that the old man will dream dreams and the young men will have visions. What? What is that? That sounds mystical. Jenny, where are you going? I believe we are supposed to dream. I believe that he put his Spirit in us And I believe that those dreams all are for this story. I remember one of the high school concerts that Little Bono played. And I remember another guy being there. And they turned it into worship. And we just worshiped together. It's something about that moment. Little guy playing Bono became bigger than high school bands. I think that if we get this, if we believe that there is a God coming and he's not going to delay, not on his terms. I believe that my friend Sarah, they can't talk right now because she just had a massive stroke at 35 years old. I believe that we will hang out in heaven and there will be a day there that she looks at me and says, you know what? I get it. Because in 10,000 years, I think her suffering will feel small, even though it feels absolutely wrong to say it, because it's so awful. But when I talk to her about it, something about her already gets that. This story changes every one of our stories. This story changes every one of your minutes if you let it. You will do your everyday differently. Because we do not get along. I don't care who you are. We just don't get along here. So when I start to feel small in an arrow like that, which is easy to do, I picture Jesus in the sand and drawing and coming after one of his little people in their time, in their space, on their terms. And I know that he has done that for me over and over and over again. He seems to keep moving into my time and my space for me. He seems to keep moving my heart deeper and deeper in love with him. And when I'm running away, he seems to keep pulling me back. So it's a big story. And yet I think it could change every day of our lives if we believe it's real.